Hi guys, I hope you're all well. So today I thought I'd sit down and film my birth story. It's been a month since Everly was born. If you followed my pregnancy journey and you're already subscribed, then I'm sure you'll already know that from our vlogs. But if you're new to my channel, then a little bit about me. I had a baby girl Everly on the 21st of December and I already have a 3.5-year-old son, Harrison. They're both the dreamiest of children. I know I'm completely biased, but they're lovely. They really are. And I'm kind of still in my newborn bubble at the moment. But I thought I would sit down while she's asleep and film my birth story because so many of you are asking for it and I kind of wanted to get it out there before I forget all of the nitty-gritty small details. Apologies first of all if you hear trains and if you hear a little snuffly baby. She's currently sleeping on me because she's very cuddly and she just likes to be cuddled up to mummy all day. So yes. So just like my pregnancies, both births were very similar in that they were both very quick and bearable. I always feel like a little bit of an idiot saying this, but I really enjoy giving birth. I don't find it an unbearable experience. I don't find it the most painful thing that you could go through. I think there's a hell of a lot worse situations that you could be in. Saying that, I know that so many people do have tough labours, so I'm not like disregarding those at all, but from my personal experience I kind of just get into my own little zone and just kind of breathe through it. I was 13 days overdue with Everly. I was expecting her on the 8th of December, but slowly the days were going by and I was getting really impatient with it. I tried everything to go into labour naturally, but it just was not happening. The day before I gave birth to her, so on the 20th, I kind of had exhausted all other options and decided to book myself in for some reflexology, which I've never had before, and I think that was the one thing that brought me closest to having her naturally. Immediately I felt like a sense of baby's on her way. I don't know if that's just a coincidence, but mentally I just kind of thought this is it. So I was booked to be induced after a failed sweep. The sweep was a fail because my cervix was so far behind. That didn't work and they booked me in for an induction on the Thursday. They told me to ring the hospital at 7:30 the morning of and to kind of be ready to go. So I woke up, I got ready, I'd smothered myself in my clary sage oil, which actually was another thing that I kind of feel like gave me some labour feels. I called the hospital and they didn't answer. So my day kind of wasn't started off the best. I kept trying to get through and it took a couple of hours at the end. I went for 3 laps around the block. I really wanted to get things moving as soon as possible, but it just wasn't happening. Finally got through to the hospital and they said, okay, come in at 11:30 or 11 and we'll induce you. So a little bit gutted that I was going in for an induction. I don't know why it is like that we don't want to be induced. Essentially it's just giving you that little push and you need to have your baby anyway. So we went in for the induction. It is 10:50 on the 21st of December. It's a Friday and I am at the hospital ready to go and be induced. I'm currently 13 days overdue, 41 plus 6 weeks pregnant, which wasn't part of the plan, but hey, gonna meet this little one very soon. And whilst I'm incredibly excited, I'm also so nervous of, I guess, the unknown. But I've done it before, I can do it again. The baby was very active throughout the whole pregnancy. She'd go from breech to engaged, back to breech again, over and over again. So it was no surprise that when they was monitoring me, she just wouldn't stay still. They was actually really shocked. They finally managed to get enough trace and enough information that they needed.
It's gonna be you later. How do you feel? You was not saying this about 20 seconds ago. Do you not even try?
And they induced me via pessary after giving me a whole load of leaflets to read, which was a little bit overwhelming at the time. But the pessary was really nothing to worry about. It didn't hurt at all. It was kind of like a piece of paper, I guess, with like a paper string that essentially just is like a tampon. So they induced me and told me to lay down for 50 minutes. I was under the impression that it was going to take about 24 hours to kick in, and that it would just give me earlier, more painful contractions, but the most natural way or something like that.
That's what happens when someone gets fed and I don't. Alright, I'm gonna get my own takeaway.
Hold on a minute. I've got a bag of stuff.
I don't want that. I had that sandwich already.
Oh no.
Strawberry ice cream. That's mine.
That's mine. Mike popped over to M&S to get some snacks. We waited around for a little bit and then I was kind of bored, so I was like, let's go for a walk around the block, or around the hospital anyway. So I've just been induced with a pessary, which can apparently take up to 24 hours, or at least that's when they'll next like examine me. My cervix is still far behind. Baby's very active. Now we're just having a little walk around the hospital to try and get things going. I feel like there's a lot more pressure, but who knows? It could be just all in my mind right now. What do you think?
I don't know. It's on lap 5.
Lap 2 of the hospital. Mike's been to M&S and stocked up on goodies for us. But I thought it was going to happen today. I think tomorrow, or like the middle of the night. It's my guess.
Whenever it happens,
yeah,
it happens. So let's just keep positive.
Whilst we was walking around, I did start to feel a little bit of pressure. I can't remember how I described it, but I do know that I've got a clip. I think it was like a balloon with a bruise that was being like about to burst. It wasn't a contraction as such, but I just felt an intense amount of pressure. So we've been back, haven't we? And now we're on another lap. I've just been to Marks and Spencer's to buy chocolates for the midwives in an attempt to get them to look after me tonight. I just snorted. I'm in quite a lot of pain. I feel like pressure. I described it as a balloon with a bruise that was being trodden on. So, I mean, I know what's it called, the pessary, is meant to make you feel pain like stronger earlier on. So I don't know if it's that or if things are starting, but I'm having a little bit...
You said it's more constant than...
Yeah, it's not a contraction, it's constant, so who knows? But it hurts and I'm walking a bit like a cowboy. A little bit of background information into my pregnancy. I had group B strep, which meant that I would have to be on an IV drip of antibiotics for 4 to 12 hours. If I didn't receive it, baby would have to. So as soon as my waters broke or as soon as contractions started, I would need to be hooked up. The hospital were, as I believe, completely aware that I had group B strep. It was all over my notes. When you find out you have it, they give you tons of yellow stickers to stick all over, just to kind of act as a bit of a warning and a heads up, like, get this girl on to an IV. Once I started feeling that amount of pressure, I thought it would be best to let the midwives know, and that way they could put me on a drip, because I do, well, with Harrison I had a speedy labour, so I kind of wanted to get in there with the antibiotics to ensure that I had enough in time. So the midwife said that she was going to monitor me for 20 minutes. By this point I feel like contractions had started because the pain was on and off.
So Laura, we're now 4 hours past the point of when you had the pestle put in.
Yeah.
Explain to me in your own words how you feel. Can you also say on record whether or not I've been helpful?
You have actually.
Can you also confirm that I've made you laugh loads because I'm funny?
Yeah, you have.
See, YouTube people that don't know me, I am funny.
She asked me to time my own contractions, which I was more than happy to do. So I downloaded an app on my phone and just kept track. They were coming 1 to 2 minutes, lasting for a variety of time. There was no set period really, but they were strong, and I did very much believe that something was happening. So I should have been monitored for 20 minutes. 2.5 hours later, I was still hooked up to the machine, pretty much begging them to get me off. So Mike asked the midwives several times, or the healthcare assistant several times, to get me taken off of that, because I needed to get into my comfortable positions. I just wasn't happy laying down. Sadly, we were ignored. I really don't want this to be like a moany video. I don't want to come across like I'm slamming the NHS, because I have nothing but respect for the NHS. I love them, and essentially baby and I were safe and she was delivered safely. However, her health was compromised potentially, which angers me, but I don't want to get into that because I want this to be a positive video. We asked several times for myself to be checked to see if I was dilated. Nobody came. Eventually a healthcare assistant was doing her rounds of like blood pressure and temperature and stuff, so she popped her head round, did the tests, and said to Mike, have you had any answers in regards to your antibiotics, and has anybody checked you yet? She could obviously see on the monitor that my contractions were pretty strong, but I feel like because I was just breathing through them, I wasn't like the lady 2 beds down who was begging for an epidural at 1 centimetre. They hadn't checked me. I didn't know how far into labour I was, or even if I was just experiencing the early, more strong contractions that the induction could possibly do. So she found somebody. They came in with an laminated piece of paper and said, oh, I'm really sorry, we don't administer antibiotics unless you've got group B strep. And I was like, I do have group B strep. And she's like, oh, well in that case, until you're 4 centimetres dilated. To which Mike replied, how do you know she's not? You've not checked me, not checked her. Anyway, she disappeared, took me off of the monitoring, disappeared. A little while later, this was now about 9:30, I'm guessing, carol singers turned up, which was the most amazing thing ever. I was having contractions, laughing that carol singers were in the ward, and crying because I found it very emotional, because they were singing my favourite Christmas song, and it was just, I don't know, for the whole week I'd been like, I really want to go to a carol service, and it just felt like a little bit of a moment.
You're not Mary, you're Laura. Favourite song though, isn't it? It's a sign.
Bless all the dear children.
Clap. So Laura, how do you feel? They've sang your favourite song.
White magic.
It's a sign. Okay.
That seemed to stop my contractions for a little while, and they just calmed down. Then I kind of felt like I needed to push at this point, so I took myself off to the toilet, did a poo, and there was a whole load of bleeding, which panicked me. So I got off the toilet. I didn't know whether to pull the alarm because I didn't want to be that person that pulls the alarm, and I don't know, should have in hindsight. Got out into the corridor, couldn't move. Something was happening, baby was on their way, and it just seemed to get very stressful very quickly. So there's me clinging on to a hand sanitizer. Mike comes along because he's thinking, where's Laura gone? I'm in the corridor telling them that I'm bleeding, telling Mike to find a midwife. He couldn't find a midwife. The healthcare assistant appears again. She seemed to be the only person that was around, yeah, eventually she came. She told me that she was my midwife. I explained the bleeding. She told me to go back to my bed. I said that I couldn't get back to my bed. I couldn't walk, I couldn't move. I was literally like squatted on the floor. Mike got me a chair to push me, like an office chair, to get me back to my bed, but I was like, no. Managed just to like squat my way to the bed. With that, they did come to check me finally. So my midwife did an examination and she said, oh, I think you're 5 centimeters, but I'm just going to get somebody else to double check just for like peace of mind. So another midwife appears, which was amazing. 2 midwives in the space of minutes, and she said, oh no, you're 8 centimeters. Do you want to go through to the birth centre? So I was like, yes, I'm going to get my birth centre birth. And the other midwife was like, no, you're going to have to go to labour ward because the birth centre's closed. Which at that point I was like, whatever. Baby's coming. Well, I knew baby was coming, but I kind of didn't know. I was still under the impression that this was going to be a very long process, because I feel slightly robbed of my labour because I didn't get to follow the progress. I didn't get to be 2 centimeters and 3 centimeters, so on. So then with that, 2 lovely midwives were like, welcome to the birth centre, we're going to open the birth centre for you, and my waters broke pretty much at that point. Now, during Harrison's labour, my waters broke just before I started pushing, so I was like, okay, this is happening now. She came round the curtain and was like, get a delivery pack now. Get a delivery pack now, guys. The first midwife then came back round and was like, oh, but we need to put an IV drip in. And she was like, it's a bit late now, baby's here. I remember hearing someone say, get a wheelchair for her, and the birth centre midwife was like, no, she's staying in the bed. So suddenly they were pushing me round on the same bed that I've been on all day, legs up. I was covered a bit, I mean, you know, pushed round through this ward, up the corridor, into the birth centre. Throughout the corridor, they're saying to me, Laura, you can't give birth here, you cannot give birth here, stop pushing, stop pushing. When you need to push, you need to push. I feel like you have to trust your body. And the midwife said, whilst in the corridor, Laura, your baby has a lot of hair. Ooh, that made me get a bit emotional. God, I didn't want to cry in this video. So they banged into a wall accidentally, of course, and I was like, ugh. Pulled me up into this birth centre, which was amazing. I think like the room next door to where I had Harrison. And then literally the next thing I know, minutes after being told that I was actually dilated, at the first point of them even checking me, Laura, I need you to do really small pushes because I don't want you to tear. And I was like, oh my god, the baby's here, like I'm about to have the baby. When I had Harrison, I remember looking at the clock thinking I've probably got about 4 hours to go, and in actual fact I had a few minutes, and I had that similar feeling here. I was like, I didn't even know I was having the baby right now. Very, very silly. I think just because I hadn't been checked, I didn't know I was dilated, I didn't know it was happening. So she said, I need you to take really small pushes now, and with that I kind of just stopped. I remember thinking, right, I'm about to have this baby and I want to savour it because I haven't managed to have the full experience, so I just took a deep breath and was like, right, let's do this. And baby's head was there and out. The ring of fire didn't feel half as bad as it did with Harrison. It just, I don't know, it just happened. I feel like it was my body just doing it for me, in all honesty. She was very ready to be born, and yeah, I feel like I was just in the right zone. Oh god, what a magical moment. So I put my hands on baby's head, waiting for my next contraction, and the midwife was like, do you want the injection to deliver your placenta? We had a bit of a chat whilst we was waiting for the rest of baby to be born. I remember like stroking her hair on her head, and just thinking, oh my god, this is my baby. So yeah, my next contraction came and she said, right Laura, I need you to push now or something. And I said, I can't do it, which is again what I did with Harrison. And she was like, Laura, this is the easy bit, you can do it. And I think I remember Mike like sniggering, and I pushed, and there she was, like my baby being put up onto my chest, and it was magic, pure magic. Nothing can beat that feeling. Nothing can beat that feeling.
Oh, I love that cry. I love that cry.
So they popped her up onto my chest. They left the cord attached for a while until it stopped pulsing. They went to cut it and I was like, no, can Mike do it? And we just kind of had a good old chat. Because things had happened so off guard, Mike's takeaway was outside waiting. They were calling him, and there was just nothing prepared. Baby's bag was still in the car, so Mike had to go out and get it. On the way out to the car, he'd seen the family that just got into the ward and had probably seen everything of me, and they were like, oh, how's your partner? And he's like, the baby's here already. I was texting my mum throughout, like before actually giving birth, and Mike kind of took over the reins. And my mum said that there was literally like messages like, okay, nobody's checked us in 9 hours, she's still not had the IV, to suddenly she's 8 centimeters, baby's coming, baby's here, like so quickly, like they couldn't keep up. So yeah, baby was born. They were like, that's a big baby, you've got a big baby. And I was like, guess how much do you think they are? Like, how much do you think she weighs? And they were all like, oh, I think 9 pounds. The midwives were amazing in the birth centre. They kind of left us to it for, I would say, like half an hour possibly. They were like, we've got no one else to look after in the birth centre, so let's just, you chill out with the baby, enjoy her before she gets weighed and before she gets dressed and everything, which was amazing. So we did that, and we just really took the moments in, and then I was like, right, I'm ready to stand up. I had suffered quite a bleed, so they had to give me an extra injection, which made me feel really sick. I tried to stay as calm as possible, but I said to the midwife, I remember saying to her, I'm probably being dramatic, but I feel really sick and very faint. I'm a bit shaky. She was like, that's because I've given you another injection to stop the bleeding. I think what had happened was the sac that baby was in hadn't come away. So I remember her telling me to cough, and she was kind of pulling it out. The placenta was delivered fine. She showed me it. She showed me how, because I had started going overdue, there was little white bits on the placenta, which basically meant the placenta was wasn't working as well as it should be and was closing down. So she was showing me all of that, and yeah, just kind of pulling out the rest of the stuff. So yeah, I had a bit of a bleed, but was fine, and fortunately didn't need any stitches. I had like a tiny tear, but it wouldn't have even been able to be stitched. Peeing afterwards I was dreading, but that was fine. So for my worst bits of like peeing after and the ring of fire, they were alright. I had a bath a couple of hours after to clean myself up, and it was amazing. Thinking about it now, although yes, I didn't have a great hospital experience, and that is ongoing, I know that it was just a lack of communication, and maybe understaffing issues. The birth itself was magical, and I just feel slightly robbed of it. I would have liked to have documented more and known about more. I'm very angry that I didn't get my antibiotics. Even more angry that baby didn't get antibiotics afterwards, or wasn't offered antibiotics afterwards. The observations and stuff afterwards were all pretty dire too. During the night we was in the birth centre in an ensuite room, but staffing issues meant that we had to be moved to a shared ward at 3 AM. Not ideal. So in terms of my overall experience, there was lots of things that I'm very unhappy about, but essentially baby is well, and thankfully baby didn't need the antibiotics and was healthy. I feel like if you're not screaming and shouting, you're kind of not taken seriously, and I feel like mums should be trusted a little bit more. We know our own bodies, we know what's happening, and just because people do deal with things differently, I don't need the pain relief, I don't need to scream and shout, but I should still be trusted. That's neither here nor there. Baby was delivered safely. She was in actual fact £10.4. The midwife popped her head back round after a while, was like, I have to tell you this, your baby's £10.4. She was like, you've just pushed out a £10.4 baby without a paracetamol. And they were really lovely. They were like, you've done amazingly. And I know that midwives could just say that, but I believed her. Like, I felt like Superwoman again, just like I did with Harrison. I felt like, oh, I did this, and it was a very empowering moment. I feel like genuinely nothing can beat giving birth, and meeting this little one was just precious. I had that very same moment that I had with Harrison, where I looked down at her, and this is where I'm going to get emotional. And I promised her the world, essentially. I told her that I'm going to keep her safe, that she's so loved, that we've wanted to meet her, that her brother is amazing, and that just essentially that we love her and I will do anything for her. It's that moment that things suddenly feel real. You know your baby throughout your pregnancy, but that's the moment you know them. So yeah, that was kind of, I feel like I've probably missed a million things. I really don't want this to come across like I was slamming the NHS or anything. I wasn't. I'm really disappointed and sad at the sequence of events leading up to her birth and afterwards, which I'm not really going to go into because, like I said, it is ongoing. There's a lot of things that weren't done to standard. There's a lot of things that were ignored, but baby's safe, baby's well, I'm happy, baby's happy, and that's all that matters. We left the hospital the following day. All of her checks were fine, and then Harrison came to meet her. I was so adamant that I wanted Harrison to be the first person to meet her, and that happened. My mum and dad brought him up to the hospital. He came in and he was like, it was like, oh god, it was one of those moments again. It was priceless. He held her, he kissed her, he was amazing. All of a sudden Harrison went from feeling like this big to huge. I remember looking at him and thinking, like, not in a horrible way, I don't mean this like you've got a big head, but you're so big. Like, what happened to my little boy, who is little but to me now seems like a grown-up? I couldn't be more in love with my little family. So yeah, like I said, I probably have missed a million things. I feel like I'm just sat down like talking to a friend and you can kind of go back to bits and pieces. But yeah, she was born at 10:44, so yeah, I do think I was pushing for a couple of minutes maximum. I do believe that had I stayed in the toilet any longer, she would have been born there, but it's fine. She was nearly born in the corridor. Thankfully she wasn't, and it was magical, like proper magical. I want to do it again now, not with another baby, with Everly. I just feel like I just love it. I love it. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty eventful. Between 5 and like 5:30 and 10:44, some carol singers, a bit of bleeding, a bit of being ignored, no antibiotics, a trip to the toilet, a trip to the corridor, lots of pacing around, a shepherd's pie, lots and lots of snacks, lots and lots of Costa, what they're called, hot spiced apples, dreamy. Yeah, she was born between, I think, like, yeah, 5 hours, all of them little bits and pieces, and she was here in the world, safe and sound in mummy's arms. Didn't you? Safe and sound in mummy's arms. And you've pretty much not left them since. But yeah, I'm definitely rambling now and just reminiscing about one of the best moments of my life. Thank you for watching. I hope you're well. I hope I haven't scared you or anything. Honestly, I'm a positive birther. I feel like if you can do what I did and just kind of find your own technique, listen to your body, trust your body. I mean, I think I just kind of hypnobirth without knowing that I'm hypnobirthing. Trust your body. If you are going to have a baby soon, if your labour is imminent, you can do this. You've got this. And enjoy it. Just enjoy it. You don't get it back. It's one of those moments that you don't get back. And I promise you, you forget the pain. You can't ever describe it properly afterwards. You forget it. So yeah. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you soon. Bye.